back to the Ruck Shop's YouTube channel. Today we're going over the TRS drag brace and the installation on a GY6 platform. Here is the GY6 scooter that has the PSP harness on it, and we're going to point out a few things that we just did to kind of jump ahead, but you'll also see that it's in the directions that you'll find on the PDF file that you can get through the QR code. Now the first thing that we removed was the push button start, which has the two little Phillips head bolts that hold it in place, and there is also a bracket, that factory bracket that holds it in place. What you're going to do is replace that with the bracket from the kit, and we'll go into bolting that down using the factory hardware. With the kit, you're going to find a couple supplied nylock nuts for the backside, and you'll go ahead and use those and secure it up. So now you see it's all assembled, put together. You can go ahead and put that to the side. Where that existing bracket was is now removed, and you'll see there's a black bracket that goes across from the battery tray to the ECU plate. That's another one that's included with the kit. For the bolt above the battery, I believe that's the M6x16 with the nylock nut, and then on the other side, holding to the plate, those both are M6x16s as well, with the nylocks on the back side. If you have a GY6 and you're using the factory ECU plate to hold your components, you're going to have to get rid of that and get a component plate like this, because this kit will remove that one. So I'll put a link in the description below for this component plate. If you have one, you're going to want to open up between the two plates so you can slide your rubber CDI tab in there and then pinch it in between them. Next up, we're going to bring you around to the other side and show you where the spacer would go. So for install purposes, we say it's easier to take the front half of the battery box cover off for this reason, so you can get access to the front here, that one bolt. With that, if you have the 49cc platform, you're still going to use the existing ECU tray, and because you're still keeping the factory ECU, you're just going to use a spacer there. The spacer is going to go in between the factory headlight assembly there and then the ECU bracket along with the provided hardware. When you have the GY6 like this, you're just going to bolt it directly to that plate, or I'm sorry, to this bracket here, and then you'll be all set for this side. Okay, so next up for the front of the bike, we have our brace bracket, and it's the smaller of the brackets, what you see here. That is going to bolt up to your factory headlight bracket. There's a little bolt there. So the way to line up to make the hole, if you go ahead and put one of the M6 bolts through the bracket into the factory clip there, at the bottom you're going to have the second hole. And what you can do is take a Sharpie. Usually your frame's not going to be powder coated like this. You can take a Sharpie, a marker, and mark where you're going to drill the hole. Now the one thing you want to make sure is you don't go too far past and you actually drill into the stem itself. So you're just going to want to break the first layer there of aluminum so that you can drop the bolt through, and then there's going to be a nut that you drop behind along with the little wrench that we provide. So now the hole has been drilled, we use the M6 drill bit so you can fit the M6 bolt through. We're going to go ahead and remove the clip so that we can go ahead and drop the nut with the bracket. So you can see there's the clear holder that we have here. You put the nut in there, slide it down the groove so it lines up with the hole, and then you're going to put the bracket along with the supplied M6 bolt through the bracket and tighten it into the nut. So now that he has the bolt in the hole, he's tightening it up and lining up the top part of the bracket. Now that that's tight, Okay, so now that the bottom bolt is in, the clip has been put in up top, and then he's going to put the push button lock off that he has there. There's a single hole in it. That's going to line up with the little bracket there, and then go ahead and screw that in. You want to try to keep this as straight as possible because you want it to line up with your battery box holes. If you refer back to the instructions, it also says you can check fitment before putting the bar on to make sure that it is perfectly straight.
Next part, we're going to show you the rear frame here. With this, you're going to have to grind 3 little tabs. The 2 on the left here, this one, and then as well as the middle tab. When you grind these away, you can go ahead and put the T-bracket on. We have it in 2 different sizes. We have an M6 size for a stock platform like this, and then we also have a M10 size if you have already drilled out your holes for a fatty or a mount that requires you to have the M10 holes. So this way we have an option for both platforms for skinny, fatty, stock, modified. It'll cover all the different angles there. So again, if you have stock, you can just go ahead and keep using these, and fatty, use the hardware supplied.
So you can see here, these holes are now drilled out. This bike already had actually the holes pre-drilled because it was a GY6. So the bolts that are provided are the M10s. You can see there, we just go ahead and put those through, and those come with the nuts that you're going to use. They have a little crush washer with it as well, and that will tighten up that portion. Once you get those 2 bolts inserted and tightened, the next thing we're going to do is trim the battery box. Okay, so now with your battery box off, in here there's a little V-notch that you can see that you'll have on your battery box. We're going to use that as a center point for it, and the Bert's going to run some tape down. He's going to currently mark it so he knows where it's at. And then do it on the front side as well. See right there. So he's going to take some 1-inch tape
and find center between them.
And find center between the 2 holes with the 1-inch tape. Follow it down to the center of his marking there. He's using painter tape. It's a little bit more forgiving for the bike and the factory plastics. So you can see it kind of ran right along the edge of that. That's going to be the center for the front back half of the box there. So you can see here, Bert's holding it up in the light, and he's lining up the 2 holes, and you kind of use it as a really good demonstration. There's also a dotted line on the paper, so he's using that along the side of the tape. Now with matching all those up, he's going to use some blue painter's tape and line up that guide and bolt it on. So you can see he has the dotted line running right along the outside edge of the tape. That's how it's going all the way up there. So he's going to go ahead and line that up while it's still lined up. Place another piece of tape on the bottom. And this is going to reassure that the template is centered. Now you can see he's putting tape around it to keep it in place. It's a good thing for when you are beginning to do the drilling of your box to make sure that template does not move. Per the instructions, if you want, it's said to layer up on tape in case like your Dremel bit does skip. You have a little bit more safety before it gets to the box. I know the tape is kind of thin, but it doesn't hurt to put layers of this. Bert is a tactician with the Dremel, so you can see even with that type of skill he has, he's still lining up the tape, so take notes with that. Alright, so basically what he's going to do is he's going to use his tool and start in the center of the diagram, make a little hole, and he's going to slowly work his way around to get to the hole to the right side. We also have a little rubber O-ring that you can use to line up to make sure that the hole does get to the correct size. And if you pay attention to the diagram, which again we've provided many of them in there, the sides of the
drawing are actually kind of flat going down. It's not a perfect circle, so you're not using like a exact hole saw bit, and this is why we're saying to use like a rotary tool or something to open it up, because the drag bar is at an angle, so the hole has to be oblonged and not a perfect circle. So Bert's gonna go get going on this. I'll cut off the mic so you don't hear all the noise, and we'll catch you when it's all set. So Bert went ahead and cut the hole. So it may look like on the edges here, the one way to see is as you're following the line, you can see in the video Bert was pushing down and lining up these little rough edges to make sure as he was folding over it was catching that edge still. Because it is paper, it's a little bit harder when it's cutting. It's not going to cut the same as the plastic will. So as he was folding these down, he was making sure that that was all lined up. So now he's going to remove the tape and go ahead and show you the hole.
Please remember, you take material off, but you can't add material.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard it or not. He said you can always take material off, but you can't add material on. So if you want to play it safe and leave a little bit around, you can always do that and then come back and... Now you can also always go through it with a file and clean up the edges if you need to. And we'll go ahead and head back to the bike, since now the drilling, the most nervous part, is done. So now he just went ahead and slid the supplied O-ring in. One thing that you can do is use like any type of spray, like a silicone spray or like a spray on wax, and you can spray the inside of the O-ring as well as the drag bar itself to help the bar slide through for your initial installation. So you can see he already sprayed it with some detail spray, loaded it up, sliding it in there like butter. So that bar is in there. He's going to go ahead and line it up with the T-bracket down there. Slide the bolt through. There we go. And then line up the top bracket, as you can see. Put the bolt in. And then it comes with the supplied crush washer and hex nut. So while he's going to go ahead and tighten that up, you can do the same, and then we'll get back once that's all buttoned up. Alright, so now that he has it buttoned up, he can go ahead and slide that cover back in place. Just going to line up with the ignition cover as well as the push button block off. Once he gets that all lined up, you can go ahead and put the front battery box cover on, or you can do that next. So you can see now he has the box on. All you have to do is go ahead and button up the rest of the bike and you are good to go. Hopefully this video was helpful. Again, we do provide very detailed instructions with this. So this is kind of go parallel with that in case you need a little bit more of a visual to go with the pictures. Side note, this is our extended gas tank, so if you do have it and you are wondering if it does clear, yes, it clears the extended gas tank pretty well, so you won't have to worry about that. So there you go. There's the drag brace installed on the GY6. But again, this works for GY6, 49cc, all the platforms. We have multiple different ways to install it. And this is basically bracing the front aluminum frame by the top of the tree to your rear steel frame. The product for this will be in the video description and be linked above as well. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe.